What was the strategy of EMI then when you're seeing this physical distribution decline, the market expand because more people have access to the music, but now the profit pool is in effect unknown or questionable? How did you restructure EMI to?
Well, I think that EMI, it goes in layers here. So in the in the as I was saying earlier, in the latter half of the 90s, EMI was very progressive in terms of the way in which it looked at the digital opportunities. But by the time it was, 2002, the 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 losses associated with the business were so great that investing in those things was impossible, right? And it took forever for for the organization to try and get out in front of the reduction in. So you had, you know, I'm not overstating how distressing the entirety of the felt about where things were and how to fix it. And the so we tried to, in my role changed across. There were efforts of the industry to consolidate. So let's get bigger so we'll be less small going forward. And so EMI tried to do that with Warner Music. It's turned down by the European Union, but others did happen. So and the and so there was consolidation. Bertelsmann and Sony got together, and there were smaller consolidations that went on as well. That gave you more scope to, as long as you would continue to reduce your costs. And so, what does that mean? What does that all mean for the people who make music, the artists and the songwriters and the producers at all? Well, what's happened is that they have historically been completely dependent on major record companies and publishers for their income. And that goes for, and so now the opportunity for income is declining. And so how do you fix that? The record companies took the lion's share of any of the revenue, and that's largely because their business model wasn't about optimizing the value of each song or each recording, but was, let's find the ones that are going to break out, and those are the ones we're going to pay attention to. So a lot of music got created, but also sort of got dumped into a junk pile. That cost meant that in order for the economics of a music business to work, you had to make a lot of money on the things that worked. Right? The more failure you have, the more your successes have to be out of greater, and so that model had been the way in which the businesses had worked for decades, right? So the deals were for music creators, even in success, the majority of their revenue, the revenues that they're related to their works, go to the record companies, and because otherwise the business model doesn't work. Um, the so anyway, so you have distress amongst the artists, and you have distress among the record companies themselves. You have distress among the retailers who are getting hammered, uh, closing their stores as fast as they possibly can. It used to be in the United States, in the malls had a lot of small uh, uh, shops for records, right? Uh, and those are the people weren't buying. So in every mall in America, you had a shop that went out of business. And in the United Kingdom, in this period, you had the same kind of phenomenon. A little less dire because the U.S. tends to be more adoptive of new technologies at all, but nonetheless pretty dire. So anyway, so let's get back to around middle of the decade, 2005, 2006, in there. That's the point at which new models start to come forward, and have some the in the and they come from places you don't really expect them to, right? And the one that is most prominent about it is Spotify in and Spotify would not have happened if the same way in which that it was started in the UK or started in the US or France even. They're basically conservative in terms of their way of thinking, but Scandinavia, they thought, no, yeah, well, okay, it's Sweden. It's meaningless in terms of the amount of records we sell, right? So yeah, well, let's give it a try.
And they had subsidized bandwidth and had a infrastructure required.
Yes, exactly, precisely. So they had the structural elements that allowed Spotify to exist, right, and to do so in it, and they had managed the piracy to a greater extent than most territories. So the heads of each of the major labels in those territories, and led by ours, EMI, decided that they wanted to make a choice. They wanted to do it. They wanted to give them the ability to do and the key way that it was accepted was that there was control over the actual distribution. That it wasn't simply an open book, right? And that there was an economic model, which was, we'll give it to you free with advertising and limited promotions, but we'll have a subscription model that gives consumers the music in ways that are more satisfying, and that is the basic model of at the end of the day. So it's a funnel. You have a funnel. We have a lot. We're going to get a lot of people to listen and come in, and then we're going to get them to come through the funnel and start to pay. And what was driving the music business was the presumption that this would reduce piracy. That you would see changes in piracy. That was That was what the proposition was. So it was not seen as the future so much as it was. It's a way to fight piracy.